Hey everybody, Jem Schofield of the C47 and another episode of Gearbox 2.0. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the Aputure Spotlight, so let's get started. All right kids, here it is, the one and only spotlight from Aputure. There's a lot of great data out there on this particular light modifier. So I'll put a couple of links below the fold so you can check out articles and other videos and other people's take on this. But what I decided to do today was to break this up into two parts. The first one, just kind of the nuts and bolts of what this thing is. And then we'll go upstairs and I'll actually show you how to use this in a real world production environment. So I've been using Source 4s and LECOs in different types of productions for quite some time. A couple of the sort of most common ways that we see them being used is we take Source 4 LECOs that are used in theatrical applications with different lenses, and they basically just become production lights. Those are generally tungsten, but there are now LED options, and they're all in one units, but they are a one-trick pony when you're using them. There are also ways to modify other lights, generally very expensive ones, like Joker bugs, which are HMIs. And you basically put a LECO in front of that with different lenses of different degrees, and we call that a Joe LECO. So what we're getting here in the spotlight is we're getting the ability to take something like this 120D2 or 300D2, and we're allowed to now, well, basically modify it into a hard light. It gives us an option. I wouldn't say allowed, but you guys get the idea. So what do we have here? Well, if I just pan this towards the back, and if you see me look over here, there's a screen. I just want to make sure you're seeing what I want you to see. We do have, obviously, a piece of glass here, and when we attach, which we'll do in a second, a light fixture, then that's going to concentrate that light some more as it comes through the spotlight. And then over here on the front, we obviously have a piece of glass as well, and this is a 19-degree one. And what you do is you basically buy this as one unit with either a 19-degree, 26-degree, or 36-degree lens. And in fact, let me just take this out so you can see that. That is the lens, and you can just swap them out very easily. I'll just slide that back in here. So this is how you would basically change them out. And then there's a threaded component here. And what we do is we just go like that and tie it down. And then this is our focusing mechanism, right? So we basically have two lens elements here, and we are able to focus the light that's coming through to get very precise hard light. All right, what else do we have here? Well, if I just point this here, and you should be able to see it. Let me go ahead and just tilt that up. You'll see that we have these shutter blades here. And if I adjust these, basically it's going to be able to cut the light. Actually, let me just show you one thing. Might as well do this in real time and just show you what the nitty-gritty of this is all about. Let's see if you can see this. So you'll see that when I'm actually adjusting that blade here, it's very, very hard in terms of the way it can cut the light. Now, what else do you get with this thing? Well, you get a gobo or a go-between. So this is a gobo holder. Inside of the kit, there are 3 gobos, essentially a cuculoris. You can see that pattern. We've got some trees, and then you've got, for your Blade Runner stuff, we've got Venetian blinds. And basically what you do is you just take one of those and you pop it in here. Remember, it's going to flip the image. So if I'm going to put the tree in, I'm going to put it in upside down, put that into the holder, and it just basically sits right here in front of where your shutter blades are. So I'm just going to basically pop that in, and there we have the gobo. And why don't we go ahead and get a light fixture on here now. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this 120D2 and click it into place. And once we have that, I can project that onto the background, and I'm just making sure you can see that. And then I can take that knob where we're focusing, and I can just focus that light, and you can see what happens. And of course, because I put it in upside down and slipping the image, now that tree is right side up. So there you go, that's a gobo. We'll take that out, and you can see here just how hard that light is. Yes, I can soften it up, but if I want, I can make that very, very hard light. Currently, everything that I have set up right now is daylight inside of here. I'm at an f8. It's super crisp, trust me. I think it actually looks pretty crisp on screen anyway. And here we go. So now in order to cut the light, we use these blades. Now if I wanted to cut the light from below, I have to use the top blade, because remember, the image is flipped. From above, I use it from below, and then if I wanted to cut it on the left-hand side, I would adjust the one on the right, and so on and so forth, and everybody gets the idea of how this all works. And you can see that you can get very, very precise in terms of the shapes and what they look like. And then again, if you need to, you can just make adjustments in terms of how sharp that is. So as you can see, this is huge, because now we can take these generally softer sources, these LED lights, and we can make them hard lights. You also get a gel holder, which just goes right into the front. I've got a couple of CTOs in here. They're both halves, so I can have some control over and adjust those. So if I just pop that in, you can see that that's giving me tungsten light, and that's how you would adjust the color temperature with that. So pretty easy overall in terms of what you're gonna do. Besides adding other lenses, which are gonna obviously give you a broader light when you are using the product, you can, for about $100, buy this, which is an iris. And it's basically an 18 leaf or 18 blade iris. There's a spot in front of where you have the shutter blades, which is dedicated to and can actually take this. So you just pop it right in. And then as soon as I put that into place, excuse me, I probably should have loosened that a little bit. You can see that I now have an iris. So I have even more control. Now the blades don't go to completely closed, so you can't do a blackout, but what you could do is you could start to close it, and when you get to the end, you can time it and turn the light off. So you can kind of do one of those and then turn it off. So there's ways that you can get around that. Or if you're using an Aputure COB light, that little remote control, there's different ways that you can do these things. I don't have much else to talk to you about, except for to get upstairs now and actually show you how we're going to use this in a real world application. All right, kids, it is literally boiling up here. It is an oven, and I mean that. It is hot outside. I am in a space with a metal roof, and I cannot wait until I can insulate this space, start to build sets, and show you guys additional things. But this is a space I decided to use, and it's the middle of the day, so it could not be any hotter. But let's go ahead and break down what we have. So over my right shoulder, I have the 120D2 with the spotlight with the 19-degree lens. Nothing else. I'm going to use the shutter blades, and that's how I'm going to modify the light. And of course, I can focus it as I want to. Over my right shoulder, there's another C-stand. Nope, right over there. And on that C-stand is a Cardellini clamp, and then I am holding the C47 DP kit. So it's a 4-foot by 4-foot frame that you build up from 22-inch tubes based on Scrim Jim Cine from WESTCOTT. And I am using the white side of the silver white modifier that comes with that. It also comes with a floppy cutter. And also a one-stop diffuser. So it's a very versatile tool that you can use for modifying light, and it just packs up into something that can sit on your shoulder. So, other than that, a mannequin over my left shoulder, a great tool to have if you want to learn lighting. I could not wrangle anybody from my family. Hopefully I can get somebody to step in front of the camera in a little while, but it will help you tremendously. $120, $150 US, and it will allow you to take all the time in the world that you want to actually try different lighting setups, and I think it's a great tool to have. And then every single time somebody comes up into the space, they jump because they see the mannequin, but what are you gonna do? So in terms of camera system, I have right there a mirrorless. It is the XT3. I've got a 56mm lens on there. And I wanted to set it up in a pretty typical situation, so it's set to 800 ISO at an f2.8. So I'm not wide open, but I'm pretty wide open. And I think that's about it. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk over to the camera system, turn it on and start rolling. And then I'll just start talking through the things that I'm doing, and then you can see the results of those in camera as I do them. So let me go ahead and do that, and you'll see what happens. So I'm gonna basically have to turn off this key light at a certain point in time, but let me just sort of get everything set up, and then I'll come over and turn that off so you can just live on the hero footage from the X-T3. So going over here, I'm gonna turn on this camera. So let's get picture up, and there we go. And let's actually start rolling on that camera, and we'll just get a frame there. So that's what we're gonna work with. Really no available light inside of here. In fact, I'm gonna go ahead and strike the 120D2, and you'll actually see that there's that light hitting the 4x4. And what I've done is I've used those blades, and I'll just actually open them up a little bit so you can see that. And I'm just cutting the light so that it just fills, again, about 12 feet away. So you can just see that I'm adjusting these to fill that entire frame, okay? And then what else? There's a little bit of light coming in from the window. And let's go ahead and kill the key that I was using for myself. And now we can really start to look at what's going on here. Let's just see what it's like off. And then there's that light on. And I'm going to dial that down to about 90% because I like that a little bit more. And so you can see the basic frame that we have that's going on. A little dark over the left shoulder. So what I'm gonna do is I have an Aputure MX that's on the ground over here. It's set to a tungsten daylight split. It's not even up all the way, and I literally just have it on the floor. So let me just turn that on, and it gives a little bit of a lift. And let me just step out of frame again so you can see that. Now you can sort of see what happens when we've got that happening in the background. And then one of the things that I wanted to show you was there's light that's reflecting inside of the spotlight. And one of the reasons that we're getting light on the right side of the person's face, in this case the mannequin, is because there's some light that's bouncing off of the inside of this. And because talent is in between the light source and essentially what becomes my key, which is a back key light, which is this bounce off of this 4x4, I'm also getting light that's filling in the right side of the face. Now, if I go in here and I start to adjust these blades, and you can see that on the wide shot, you can see that I can actually flag that light off of the right side of the face. And then it's just bouncing off of the inside. That's not all light that's coming from the 4x4. It's actually coming from the inside of the spotlight. So it's doing two jobs in one, which I think is fantastic. Now, obviously, if the light source was on the other side of talent, then you wouldn't be able to get that fill without having something that was returning some light. So you can see, again, there it is, cutting that light off and then opening it back up. And then I can do a little bit from the other side, and you can see what happens there, but it's not as dramatic because obviously we're bouncing off of that 4x4. But just by messing with these shutters, you also can, let's just say if we're cutting, some of that light, we can be a little bit more specific in terms of where the light falls on talent as well. So a great light shaping tool, and it just has so many possibilities in terms of what you can do. Let me just go ahead and put that key back on to my sweaty self, and we'll wrap this thing up downstairs. Anytime I can take a modifier with these generally soft LED sources, make them hard, and have control like this from my fixtures, I get really excited. This is something, again, that I think I'll be using on a lot of different productions. Subscribe to the channel, check out the links below, and I'll see you guys next time on Gearbox.